In the open ocean, there are very few creatures that a great white shark needs to fear. It is one of the most powerful predators on Earth, an armored torpedo of muscle and teeth, the undisputed ruler of the waters it swims. And yet, off the coast of Australia, a healthy, 9-foot-long great white simply vanished. Scientists had attached a tracking tag to it, and when that tag eventually washed up on a beach, the data recorded inside it told a story so strange that, for years, no one could fully explain it. The shark had been swallowed. And the question that haunted researchers for over a decade was simple. What is big enough and fierce enough to eat a great white shark? When the evidence was finally pieced together, the answer was not a sea monster. But it was every bit as terrifying. Let me take you to the ocean. The story begins in 2003, on a wild stretch of coastline in Western Australia, near a place called Bremer Bay. A filmmaker and marine enthusiast named Dave Riggs and his team had stumbled onto an extraordinary scene, a group of beached sperm whales and, drawn in by the scent, great white sharks gathering in the shallows to feed. It was a rare chance to study these animals up close. So a team of scientists arrived and began tagging the sharks, attaching small electronic devices near the base of their dorsal fins. These tags were like black boxes, recording the depth and the temperature of the water wherever the shark swam, and designed to detach on their own after a programmed time, float to the surface, and beam their stored data to a satellite. It was cutting-edge technology for the time, a window into a life otherwise hidden beneath the waves. The very first shark they tagged, a 9-foot-long female, they gave a name: Shark Alpha. For a while, Alpha's tag transmitted a perfectly normal life, the slow, familiar wanderings of a great white along the Australian coast. Then, 4 months later, something unexpected happened. A beachcomber found the tag washed up on the sand, not far from where Alpha had first been tagged, but there was no sign of the shark. The tag had detached from her body and floated free, just as it was designed to do after a set time. The scientists downloaded its data, expecting a routine record of a shark's life. What they found instead left them completely stunned. According to the tag, on a night around Christmas Eve, Shark Alpha had been swimming along normally when something changed. Suddenly, she dove, plunging straight down into the deep. The depth reading rocketed from the surface to nearly 1,900 feet, almost 600 meters, far, far deeper than a great white normally goes. And then came the detail that defied every assumption. As she dove, the temperature recorded by the tag did not drop the way water gets colder the deeper you go. It spiked. It shot up from the cold of the deep ocean to around 78 degrees Fahrenheit, and it stayed there, warm and steady, for 8 full days, while the tag rose and fell and moved through the water. There was only one explanation the scientists could find for that. The tag was no longer in the ocean. It was inside another animal. The temperature of 78 degrees was too stable, too warm, to be seawater. It matched the interior of a living body, a digestive system. And that meant Shark Alpha had not simply died and sunk. She had been eaten. Something had hunted her, overpowered a 9-foot great white, swallowed her, and carried the tag around inside its stomach for more than a week, before finally either passing it or regurgitating it, allowing it to float to the surface. The question that gripped everyone who heard the story was immediate and chilling. What on earth could eat a great white shark? The theories came flooding in. Some blamed a giant squid lurking in the deep. Others whispered about a prehistoric survivor, the long-extinct Megalodon, somehow still haunting the abyss. The truth is, we almost never witness what happens in the open ocean. It is vast, dark, and almost entirely out of sight, and so when a tagged animal vanishes, our imagination rushes in to fill the void. Some blamed a giant squid lurking in the deep, its tentacles coiling around the shark in the black. Orcas have been filmed attacking great whites, flipping them upside down to induce a trance-like state, and tearing them open to feast on their livers. They are the ocean's apex predators, intelligent, coordinated, ruthless, capable of working together to isolate a single shark, hold it still, and surgically extract its energy-rich liver, leaving the rest to sink. There have even been documented cases of orca pairs driving great whites out of entire regions for months, sometimes years, at a time. Surely, people thought, an orca must have done this. But the data told a different story, and it ruled the orca out. Here is the key. The tag recorded a temperature of around 78 degrees. That is far too cold to be the inside of a killer whale. An orca, like us, is a warm-blooded mammal, and its internal body temperature sits near 97 degrees. The reading was simply too low. And there was a second problem. Orcas breathe air. They cannot And do not dive to the extreme depth the tag recorded. 1,900 feet is far beyond an orca's reach. The deepest orca dives ever recorded barely reach half that. Whatever ate shark alpha had to be able to descend to the deep, and it had to run cooler than a mammal. That left, by a careful process of elimination, only one real candidate. Another shark. A much, much bigger shark. And so the scientists arrived at the answer that has since become the most widely accepted explanation. Shark alpha was most likely killed and eaten by another great white, an enormous one, what the researchers called a colossal cannibal great white, perhaps 16 feet long and weighing as much as 2 tons. Great whites, it turns out, are partially warm-blooded. Through a remarkable network of blood vessels, they can hold their core, and especially their stomach, at temperatures higher than the surrounding sea, sometimes more than 20 degrees warmer than the cold water they hunt in. That internal warmth is exactly what the tag recorded, and unlike orcas, they are built to dive deep, capable of descending to the very edge of the light. The temperature fit, the depth fit. The culprit was not a monster. It was one of her own kind, just far larger. And the truth is, this should not have surprised anyone who truly knew sharks. Great whites are cannibals. They have been observed attacking and biting one another, sometimes removing chunks of flesh in territorial disputes. In 2009, off the coast of Queensland, a 20-foot great white was seen taking a bite out of a smaller one. The habit begins almost at birth. In the womb, baby sharks, even before they are born, will turn on and consume their own siblings. Eating their own kind is simply what great whites do. The ocean is not a gentle place, and at the very top of its food chain, even the rulers must watch their backs. But here is where the story takes a more measured turn, and where honesty matters. While the media ran with dramatic headlines about a sea monster swallowing a great white whole, many shark experts urged caution. The reality, they said, may be simpler and far less cinematic. The tag was attached near the shark's dorsal fin. It is entirely possible that a larger shark did not swallow shark alpha whole at all, but simply bit off the chunk of her body that carried the tag. The bigger shark swallows the tag. The smaller shark, wounded but possibly still alive, swims off, and the data tells a story that looks far more dramatic than it actually was. Researchers who study tagged sharks will tell you that this happens more often than you might think. Bigger sharks eat smaller tagged sharks all the time. It is, as one expert dryly put it, just another day at the ocean. So the mystery of the missing great white was never quite the Hollywood thriller it was made out to be. There was no Megalodon, the 50-foot prehistoric giant that went extinct millions of years ago, no matter how much we might wish it were still out there. No kraken. No alien sea monster. There was a bigger shark doing what bigger sharks have always done, in a part of the ocean we almost never see. The story became famous because a documentary, the Smithsonian Channel's Hunt for the Super Predator, turned it into a mystery, and because the idea of a monster eating the monster captured our imagination. And there is no shame in that. It is a deeply human instinct to wonder, to be thrilled, to want there to be something more in the dark. The ocean is the last great wilderness on Earth, a realm so vast and so unexplored that it practically begs us to fill its shadows with creatures of our own invention. But the real revelation is no less wondrous for being ordinary. The great white shark, the creature we fear above almost all others, is itself prey. Somewhere out in the deep, there swims something larger, something that hunts the hunter. The true apex of the ocean is not a single species. It is a hierarchy, a ladder of power that goes up and up until even the mightiest predator meets something bigger than itself. And that is, perhaps, the most humbling lesson the sea has to teach us. No matter how powerful you are, in the ocean, there is always something bigger. For all our fear of the great white, the real lesson of Shark Alpha is not that the ocean is full of monsters. It is that the ocean is full of relationships, of hunters and hunted, of creatures locked in an ancient, endless balance that we are only beginning to glimpse. The tag that washed up on that Australian beach did not reveal a monster. It revealed a truth. That out there, beyond the light, the natural order still runs exactly as it has for millions of years, indifferent to our fear, indifferent to our stories, magnificent and brutal and entirely, perfectly real. So here's the question I want to leave you with. Does knowing that the monster was just a bigger shark make the ocean feel less terrifying, or somehow more? I want to hear your answer. Drop it in the comments below. If this dive into the deep gripped you, share it with someone who loves the mysteries of the sea. And subscribe, because the next secret we uncover from the ocean might be the one that changes how you see the world beneath the waves. Until next time, respect the predators, question the easy monster, and never forget that the sea keeps its own order colder and older than we can possibly imagine. I am Arif Hassan, and this is AH History.